following takes place between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. on the day of the California presidential primary. Events occur in real time.
If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I want to talk to you. Friends talking nerdy.
All right, so I'm here with Morah on the phone. I'm actually calling from actually talking to her from my place today, not Sterling's little shack. So say hi, Morah.
Hi, Morah.
Hey, that's never been...
Dun. Sorry, had to do it.
That is the first time that has ever happened in comedy, you know. So I thought that today...
Wait, I'm not an original? What?
I know, right?
I'm heartbroken.
So I thought today what we would do is talk about a topic that's near and dear to both of our hearts: action movies. I know when you lived in Portland.
Action!
Yeah, fighting, punching, kicking.
Explosion! I will not go to a movie unless there's an explosion.
Exactly.
It's got to be worth that $11 to $15 to go in to see a movie nowadays. It's got to have some sort of explosion. I'm not going to sit in a theater for 2 hours just to see people talk.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
If only Sophie's Choice had Jason Statham, right?
Right.
So,
that'd be great.
I need to see that movie now. Sometimes I get thoughts in my head, like I thought one time, and I know it's a bad thought, but I thought, what if you had entire cast of Down syndrome people, and they redid Die Hard scene by scene? Yeah, I know. I would still watch it, but, anyway. On that note.
I'm sure there is something out there. I'm sure there's, someone did something similar to that. Maybe not Die Hard, but...
yeah.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll probably have to log into the Google machine to find out what, but, I figured I would ask. So I was pleasantly surprised when we first met to find out that you were into action movies. What made you love them?
Nothing made me love them. I don't know. That's always been my taste. It's like sci-fi, horror, action, thriller, all of it.
Well,
I don't know. I just always found it appealing.
Yeah, what made you fall in love, I guess, is an appropriate term.
I don't know. I think it's all the violence. I love violence, which is funny. It's like I was never a big Adam Sandler fan, but when he came out with Happy Gilmore, because here you have this guy who just in an instant would turn angry and start punching people, and that was it. Then I became a fan. So there's just something about violence where it's like, okay, this talks to me. I like it.
Yeah. Well, I think
I know.
Yeah, I mean, with Adam Sandler, he's hit or miss, and the past 20 years, he's been mostly miss.
It's more miss lately.
He honestly doesn't care. I mean, with the money that Netflix is shoveling him, I totally get the whole, let's just grab a script that's a first draft and just film that, and people will watch it, because that's the point we've gotten to with Adam Sandler movies, and that's sad because I think back to, Happy Gilmore wasn't the best movie in the world, but it was tons better than the schlock that's on Netflix now, and The Wedding Singer. It's just, how could the guy who did The Wedding Singer?
That was the best.
It was, because to me it was his most real performance. Plus, it did incorporate a lot of his regular humor.
But if you watch, that's the thing. If you really look at his work, the majority that is truly his work, it's always, even from the start, when he started to now, it always appealed. It's his target audience. It's really first graders. It has that lowbrow first grader sense of humor. And that's been the problem. So, when he did something like Wedding Singer, it's that took him a step up, which was great. And Happy Gilmore was kind of borderline. Because Billy Madison was still in that first grade lowbrow type of, category, and Happy Gilmore changed a little, which was nice. But yeah, it's like that's why the majority of the stuff, and I can't even watch the stuff on Netflix. I tried, and it's like, I got to change this.
I hate that Netflix does, we thought you would like this, and it's a new Adam Sandler movie, and I'm like, you don't know me that well, do you? But
it thinks it does. So yeah, maybe you're just a closet fan. I don't know.
I sleepwalk, but instead of sleepwalk, I sleepwatch Adam Sandler films. So, but
Well, anyways, we're not talking Adam Sandler's not action, so let's talk action.
So what do you recall as the first action movie you ever saw?
Oh man, good question. I don't know. Oof. I don't know. I don't remember.
Oh man.
What was yours?
The one I seem to recall, I forgot the name of it, but it was it was an early 80s movie. It was Linda Blair, who was in The Exorcist. And she had, the whole premise of the story was she had a deaf sister who ended up raped. Granted, I saw this at my great grandmother's house when I believe I was like 5, and then I think back now, it's like my great grandmother was an idiot for letting me watch that movie. But
yeah, no joke.
Yeah, but the whole premise of the movie after her deaf sister was raped was she buys a lot of guns and shoots a lot of people.
Okay then.
Yeah, it basically was a very bad ripoff of the Charles Bronson Death Wish movies, and those movies were bad to begin with.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, now when the Death Wish movies went to Canon Films, I mean, it turned into so bad it's good type of deal. I remember Death Wish 3, where you had Charles Bronson, Martin Balsam, two, hardcore, legendary, amazing character actors as elderly senior citizens, supposedly in New York, but it was filmed in London, fighting off a street gang. And I know Marina Sirtis, who played Deanna Troi in Star Trek: The Next Generation, she plays a young woman who ends up getting raped in the film. So if you ever wanted to see Marina Sirtis upper regions, you can watch that movie. Yeah.
No, I'm seeing a theme with you about rape movies. It's like not good, Tim. Not good.
And I wonder why I'm single. Anyway. Yeah.
No. I'm trying to think. I really cannot remember my first action film. My parents told me the first film they took me to was Bambi, but I obviously blocked it out.
Well, there's some action there.
I don't remember. Yeah, but I don't even recall it. It's like I watched Bambi years later because I remember like being really upset, when the mother got shot. But it's like I don't. Was it the mother or the father? I just know one of them got shot.
No, Bambi's mother.
Bambi's mother, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I blocked it out. I was obviously traumatized.
Mommy?
I just remember, like, in the theater, I cannot remember what was the first action film. Like, I know I saw Star Wars in the theater when it came out. But I know I'm sure my parents took me to some films before that. I remember seeing Beverly Hills Cop in the theater, which I loved. That was great.
Yeah.
I remember my mother took us, and I remember she fell asleep. Like any movie she would take us to, that was her nap time. Lights go out, that was her nap time.
Oh man.
That was great. But I'm trying to remember, like just watching on TV, there was always stuff on, and it's, Star Trek, like every weekend, that was our thing. Like we watched it as a family. So
yeah,
sci-fi action.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way when it comes to action movies in the theater. I mean, the first movie I ever remember seeing was E.T. back in '82.
Oh my God, I saw that too.
Yeah. I think, honestly, it wasn't until... I think the first action movie I saw in theaters was Tomorrow Never Dies. I mean, I'd seen plenty of action movies on television. I mean, TBS, USA Network had plenty of old stuff from the 60s, 70s, and 80s that I would watch, and then they would have replays of old James Bond movies. But I don't seem to recall watching any other action movie before Tomorrow Never Dies in the theater. So that was my first time.
So here's the age difference that's going to come into play in this conversation. So my father was a big James Bond fan, so we would always watch it. I don't remember what was the first. I don't even remember the first James Bond movie. It was so long ago because, in the 70s, I think Sean Connery was still there was a transition between Sean Connery and Roger Moore. So I know I because I was so young, I just couldn't remember who I actually saw first or which one. And even watching TV, USA Networks didn't exist. We just had the main channel.
Yeah. CBS, ABC, NBC.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up, there would always be the Sunday would always be on TV. The only thing that would be on late morning, early afternoon, you would have Godzilla, Elvis, Costello, and you know who I'm talking about.
Abbott and Costello, yeah.
Abbott and Costello, thank you. It would be them, so there was a lot of action in that because they would always be Abbott and Costello meet the werewolf, meet Dracula, meet the mummy. So that was always funny and cool. Love those. And then there would be martial arts, and then that was the typical martial arts where the voice and their lips are not matching. So that's what I grew up with on Sunday days.
Yeah, I mean, I love martial arts movies now. It really wasn't until I saw Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee on DVD that I really come to really appreciate a good martial arts movie because in a lot of ways they're honestly no different than a Western. It's just they're instead of using guns in the main alley with horses at high noon, they're just kicking a lot.
Yeah, but there is a difference because obviously those fight scenes had to be choreographed, and there was that definitely is more of an action, which as 2 seconds, take out a gun and shoot, bang bang, done. Okay, next. No,
I get that. I mean, it takes the core concept of what Westerns initially were, because Westerns were honestly probably the first action movies out there as we know them today. But yeah, I mean, they have to choreograph because one wrong punch and you send a guy to a hospital, you break his arm, you give him a black eye.
No, yeah. What kills me is, so if we're talking about action, I have to say, my biggest pet peeve lately, so I love watching fight scenes, and especially as years went by, they definitely got more detailed and creative, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. But since the Bourne films, the first one was awesome. Okay, see, you have noise in the background for once.
Yeah.
I have no noise, and I'm in New York. Just had to put that out there. Anyways, yeah, so if you notice, back to the discussion, with the Bourne films, so in the second one, that's when they started doing that whole shaky camera to give, a different type of feel. And then remember, it got to the point, the rest of the Bourne films, I can't even watch. It hurts my eyes. It gives me a headache. It's and I feel like it's such a shame because the jerky camera movements, and they incorporated that into the Bond films, where it's and I remember even the movie critics were you can't tell where this person and where the other person is, in a car chase scene, because it's so jerky and so back and forth. You can't really follow it the way it should be. And it pisses me off because it's all that time spent with the choreograph and the practice that these actors put in and the stuntmen put in, it's gone down the hole. It's just, you can't appreciate it anymore.
Yeah, and I get that too because I get what they try to do when they do that shaky cam. They try to put the audience as if they are there visually watching it in person. But the same with, I mean, with Hollywood has this bad habit of, if somebody does something great one time, 700 people need to copy it. And it just, every time somebody tries to copy it, it just becomes less and less effective, to the point to where nobody wants to do it anymore because everybody's done it and it just looks like garbage.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah. And it's, you know, speaking of, you know, stuff overdone too, one of my favorite filmmakers, John Woo. Have you ever seen the movie Hard Boiled?
Who's in that? It sounds familiar.
Chow Yun-fat.
Nope, didn't see it.
Oh, you are missing out. The problem,
Okay,
though, is this. I believe it was in 1992. It's a Hong Kong film, and I think it's on YouTube for free. It started what John Woo called gun fu. Instead of martial arts fighting, they use weapons as fighting, and they do it creatively. But the problem is, you watch Hard Boiled, and you will see that Hollywood from that time has ripped that movie off so much it's not even funny.
Okay.
I mean, it's like watching I Love Lucy today. I Love Lucy at the time it was originally put out was considered revolutionary because of how they filmed it. They filmed it in a studio. They had 3 cameras. But so many people ripped that off over the years that you watch I Love Lucy now and it's dull. You just don't watch it, and that's a shame because what John Woo did in that film... The Killers was another film he did with Chow Yun-fat, which was just
that I saw.
Yeah, but you got to watch.
I didn't care for it.
I agree with you on that one. The Killers was just the main characters were bad guys, and you got really no reason to really care for them. And then when the lead, the Chow Yun-fat character, ended up becoming blind, it was just like, who cares? But
nice.
I didn't care. You know, I mean, if he was on the side of the road asking for a quarter, I would walk on by. But that's the thing.
What was that? That was he just reminded me of that TV series where you have that blind martial arts guy traveling.
Kung Fu from the 70s with David Carradine?
Yes. Watch that too. Watch that and The Incredible Hulk, of course. That sad music. I always hated the ending, that music at the end. It was like the most depressing thing they could have given him.
But it fit. I mean, that was the absolute... It's hard watching Mark Ruffalo today because Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno nailed that character.
Yeah.
And
it was great. The series was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was different from the comics, but it was the one time that making a change to the core material actually benefited. At least at that time. I think today, with today's technology, they can make it more realistic to the comics and still make it good. But in the 70s, early 80s, they worked miracles on that show.
Like that, between that, Million Dollar Men, Bionic Woman, and Wonder Woman.
No.
Never missed an episode. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, Steve Austin. Yeah, the $1 Million Man. Yeah, and Wonder Woman was great. I remember watching Wonder Woman as a kid. What were some of the other ones? Do you remember the show Riptide?
No,
I take that as a no. That was a good one. I remember.
I said no. I said I don't.
Yeah. No, I remember do you remember the show Hunter?
Yes.
Okay.
I loved Hunter. That was a great show.
Yeah, that was, I mean, granted it didn't age well, but for the time it was a pretty kick-ass show.
Yeah, that is true. It was.
So, now that, I mean, we've already discussed James Bond. I mean, what makes you love the James Bond series?
Oh my God, it had everything. It was the whole, intrigue, spy stuff, the sexy romance, the girls, and just like he had cool gadgets, which always made it fun. And
yeah, if they didn't overdo it.
just how. No, and it's like I love the fact that like they made it fun, like the way it is now, and this is. I'm not a fan where it's like where they're taking stuff and everything has to be so dark. You know, it's like that's the one thing like I enjoy more, and it's the same thing with horror movies. I enjoy it when it's more a little bit on the cheesy side and just make it more fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something that I want to go there and just enjoy. I'm not saying it has to be a comedy. I have to laugh my ass off every 2 minutes, but definitely have it fun and to have something keep me on the edge of my seat. You know, where I'm not going to fall asleep watching it because I want to see what happens next.
Right.
And that was the one thing, like, I love with James Bond, and, like, the way it is now, it's kind of like, I'll be honest, like, the last couple of movies, you know, I went if I had a friend who wanted to see it, and I'll go with them, or I'll just wait till it comes out on cable, because it's like, I can wait.
Yeah.
And, which is sad, because, like, you know, I totally enjoyed Sean Connery and Roger Moore. They were a blast, and Timothy Dalton was okay, which is a shame because I do like him. I think he's a great actor. I loved him in Flash Gordon, and so.
Well, that's the thing with Timothy Dalton too. I mean, if you watch License to Kill, that was Casino Royale like 20 years too early. They tried to go that darker route with License to Kill. And there were a number of I don't think there was one contributing factor that made that film not as successful as it was. I mean, granted, it came out in '89, which had like Batman and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade come out, so it had a lot of tough competition. But that's a hidden gem. I mean, I think people don't give Timothy Dalton the credit for Bond that he deserves. The Living Daylights was garbage. That script really was meant for Pierce Brosnan, and he just is not a Pierce Brosnan type of actor that can be flippant with one-liners for a quick laugh. But License to Kill, you watch that, and to me, it's like I wish they could have done more of this with him.
See, and it's like, and there's another actor, Pierce Brosnan. Like, I loved him in Remington Steele. Mm-hmm. He was amazing. And that's the thing, like, because there was a whole issue with the contracts, because he was supposed to start James Bond a lot sooner than he did. But because there was an issue with the contract, they started him late, and I think that totally hurt him. So by the time they got him into that role, I don't know. It's not to say that it was like he wasn't in the height, you know,
10 years too late
popularity anymore. Like, yeah, but it was. I just feel like obviously at that point the storylines, because like he kind of reminded me like he was trying to be like Roger Moore, which, you know, I always enjoyed, but it just wasn't on its mark the way it should have been.
Well,
not to say I hated it, but it was just like definitely not in my, you know, top favorites.
Yeah, his movies were hit and miss. The only one I really truly enjoyed was Tomorrow Never Dies. I think that was the one that from the opening scene to the last, that was the one that was hitting on all cylinders throughout, and which is a surprise because if you read up on some of the production during that movie, that's a movie that should not have succeeded. Like Terry Hatcher.
Who was the villain in that? I can't remember.
Jonathan Pryce. He played, I forgot the character's name, but he was like a media baron, and he was intentionally creating a war to increase ratings for his media network.
Okay.
And
this is sad. It's like there's the titles like that came after, like with Pierce Brosnan and Timothy Dalton. Like I'll admit, I get so confused with all the titles. It's just I have to look it up to remind myself. Like, oh yeah, okay, it's that plot line.
Yeah, and yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've loved the Bond films for a long time, but I know when it comes to Roger Moore, it took me a long time to really appreciate the work he did on that movie. I think it took me watching The Spy Who Loved Me, which I think has the absolute best opening Bond scene. You know, where he skis off the mountain, he opens his parachute, it's the Union Jack, and then the Bond music hits. And it had the perfect theme song, too. Nobody Does It Better with Carly Simon. I mean, perfect.
They have, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, perfect for that movie. And I also think that that's just a damn good love song, period. But I'm certainly no expert on that.
The Spy Who Loves Me was definitely one of my top favorites.
Yeah.
I must have watched that so many times when it came out on cable.
Yeah.
There was just something, everything was awesome about it. It's like even the train scene, and it had Jaws was in it.
Mm-hmm.
Love Jaws. He was awesome. So, yeah.
They should have kept him a bad guy. They didn't need to give him a girlfriend in the next movie.
And Moonraker?
Oh, Moonraker was
love
atrocious.
That. I love that. It was in Moonraker. No, I enjoyed it. There was just something about it. I know it was kind of cheesy, and it was like doing like a Noah's Ark in space type of thing. But there was something about it as a kid. Like, I don't know. It's like, everybody was beautiful on the thing. The costumes, I don't know, for that time was kind of cool. But the fact, like, that Jaws became good and he got a girlfriend as a reward, it's like, I just loved it.
It's like you got a 14-year-old girl with pigtails, too. She just didn't...
Stop it.
Yeah. I'm a cynical
So
bastard.
my friends used to make... Yeah, I know. We all know. Yeah. Stop. But here's the thing. This is funny. So, like, whenever I used to go with my friends to watch a movie, and it was, like, one of these, like, horror movies or action thriller types, and by the end of the movie where it's like, everybody dies or this, and I'd be like, he wasn't bad, he was just misunderstood, because it should have been a love story. Because if you think about it, a lot of it should be like just love stories, and it's like the bad guy just wasn't loved enough. That's all it is.
Yeah, he didn't communicate enough.
It's the romantic in me. What can I say?
Yeah, I gave that up a year ago. I don't know. Anyway.
Stop.
I know. Zing. So, what would you say is your favorite Bond movie?
Like I said, The Spy Who Loved Me.
Okay. Any other one? I mean, do you break it down between actor? Do you have your favorite Connery movie? Do you have your favorite Daniel Craig movie?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll be honest. I really don't know. It's one of those like I said, like I wasn't a fan like when they started making him so dark. Like I even remember the time where they had him stop smoking, which is fine. That didn't bother me because like they want him to be like, because if you look back in the earlier ones, he was smoking and he would have a different girl like in every other scene practically, and then they got to a point where it's like, okay, no more smoking, and they got rid of the, shaken not stirred, I think, in the last couple of movies. They stopped doing that as well.
Yeah.
And they also only allowed to have him one girl. Like, they didn't want him sleeping around. Which I'm like, well, then, this isn't James Bond anymore. What the hell?
Yeah, I mean...
Just give it a new name, change the character's name, and let's move on.
Yeah, because it fit that character that he would live recklessly in his social life. He didn't want to have that one commitment to that one girl because he didn't know if the next assignment was going to be the one where he was going to be killed. So he just wanted to live life to the absolute fullest. I
get it, but it's like, I get like they were trying to make him like, because the times, just changing with the times and making, with the whole... I think it was like the whole AIDS epidemic at that point when they decided to kind of do that, I think.
But you could also have a subplot. I mean, you could also talk about Bond practicing safe sex. I don't know. I mean, and just because he's frisky with women doesn't necessarily mean he has to sleep with every single one of them.
So wait, check this out. So my friend... And I never noticed this until he pointed this out to me. Him and his roommate created this drinking game. So whenever they watched a Bond film, they would have to drink every time he would slap a woman. And it wasn't until they did this drinking game that they realized, like, because he told me, like, they got drunk off their ass. And I was like, yes. And, like, I remember him hitting girls here and there, but I never realized how much. Like, once he pointed that out to me and, like, watching the earlier films, I'm like, damn. It's like, wow, he was abusive.
Oh, Connery. I mean, Sean Connery himself. Did you ever read that interview he did where he talked about women needing a good slap every now and then?
No.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not. And I'll make sure to post it on the website, friendstalkingnerdy.com. But he was very vocal about that. It's okay for a man to occasionally slap a woman because they need it.